Marine reacts to every single Warhammer 40k faction explained. Part 1 by Bricky. As always, I'm going to be leaving a link to the original video and channel down in the description below, so go ahead and make sure that you check them out. So 2 quick things before we actually start talking about this video. 1, I have been thinking about changing up my intro, the whole staring at the camera, saying Marine reacts. I'm not really sure what I'm going to be choosing, just because I'm kind of experimenting right now, kind of see what kind of rolls off the tongue best for myself. And I have also thought about changing the actual YouTube name, PeachBud23, the nickname from way back in the day that just kind of stuck, and then I don't know, that's just kind of what I had. Never really changed it, but as far as those 2 things, don't know when exactly they're going to happen. And also, I mentioned it in the previous video for SCP-3000 that I was going to explain in this one as well, that I do notice that I tend to do this a lot. I smack my lips. It's involuntary. I try to minimize it as much as possible. I personally don't like when I do it just because I can hear it every single time. So just know that I'm working on minimizing that as much as possible. Alright, so getting into the video. We did really see Luton's 09's take on this. It was about roughly 40 to 45 minutes. So this one being 51, it's gonna most likely take a lot longer to actually upload, but I was curious to see what's Bricky's take on this. As far as the universe in general, because I've been hearing a lot of great things. And since this is going to be a long video, I don't want to really say too more. I'm going to get just right into it. But before we do, don't forget to like, subscribe. Really does help me out a lot. Hit that notification bell right there. That way you get notified every time I do upload. Sometimes uploading twice a day. Typically working on them in the morning and then releasing them in the late afternoon to late evening. That way when you all get off work, you can enjoy these videos at your leisure. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and see how Bricky's version of Warhammer 40k, Every Faction Explained, is all about.
As someone who doesn't necessarily serve the Omnisia, but someone who can appreciate them, you will not be getting my legs today, as I will be replacing them with various things depending on which faction we are currently talking about, to add a little bit more context and possible comedy to whatever the hell I am currently doing. So, hello everybody, my name is Bricky, and this is going to be a long video and a large project that has been going on for quite some time. I need 2 hands for this. This is every single Warhammer 40k race in kind of a nutshell, explained, a little bit of explanation, a little bit of lore, a little bit of talking about the tabletop, but mostly lore, what they're all about, and also a little bit of background for those of you who just have no clue what Warhammer 40,000 is. Now you see, Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000 is a universe people hear plenty of, but don't know a whole lot about. They see, oh, there's these dudes in big power armor with chainsaw swords, and they got these big old green orcs, and there's some bugs over there, and everyone calls these guys weebs. And then there's these spiky bitches over here, and I don't get it. I don't understand. Where do I start? Well, this video is particularly for you, or for those of you.
That was honestly the biggest thing for me too, is I was trying to figure out where to start. And my biggest thing was, I'd probably start with Space Marines, because that's kind of what I had a genuine interest at the time. And I was trying to see if it could somehow relate to my time in the military. But obviously, their armor, their guns. But then I was thinking, why not start with the different races? Get a little piece of the multiple pies, to put it simply. And then all that did really was to leave a lot more questions in my mind. But, so far, I like this guy. He's pretty funny.
You who have a little bit of knowledge, but you're kind of curious about each of the different races and factions in Warhammer. So, overall, the Warhammer universe is vast when it comes to lore and background, and each different faction is so different with the things that they believe in, and some are human, some are transhuman, like where they all have all these crazy ass electronics on them. You've got aliens, and you've got the chaos factions, and there's so much to entail that I decided to embark on this project to tell you.
I just want to see, because I think I remember seeing this map on the Imperium of Man in the Temple Institute video. Ooh, we see Cadia here. It's going to be coming out in the next few days as well.
What each and every single one of them is about, and what the Warhammer universe is about as well, to give at least a little bit of an intro to this extremely bloated but very, very enjoyable world that I and many others partake in. So, I will be explaining every single faction in the Warhammer 40k universe, at least all the factions you can play as, and some smaller factions here and there. I will not be discussing absolutely everything in it because that is a little bit much, and I'm not going to go too mega deep into the lore. I'm going to give you a pretty solid overview of each of the different factions and have you learn a little bit about them, and we'll discuss a little bit of the tabletop as well in case you are curious about that. But for this episode entirely, we are discussing the Imperium of Man because that takes up a fat chunk of Warhammer lore.
I don't know if anybody has mentioned it so far, but as far as like when this was being created or like just the universe in general I would think that the Imperium of Man would have been the first faction that was kind of being developed. But then I would be curious also to see how they started thinking about what kind of races they were going to add.
What is Warhammer 40,000? Well, the 40,000 starts off is the year 40,000. The 41st millennium, that's where it takes place, is in the year 40,000, 41,000 AD. You're already more knowledgeable. Let me read you a quote, first of many quotes in this video. It is the 41st millennium. For more than 100 years, the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of 1,000,000 worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass, writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day so that he may never truly die. To be a man in such times is to be amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. These are the tales of those times. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grim, dark future, there is only war.
Dark future, there is only war. Just something about that quote, man, always kind of sends chills in my spine. Just because I've seen a lot of people comment it, but it's just very, very always prominent. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, what's going to be happening in the future, say 20 years from now, 40 years from now.
There is no peace amongst the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter, and the laughter of thirsting gods. Everything blows. And it...
Oh my god. Damn, I couldn't even imagine myself like in a type of universe where like everything is just so shitty.
Blows fucking hard. Warhammer is probably the most dark and depressing universes ever in fiction. Or at least like top 3. Everything is so absurdly horrible, destructive, or overpowered that it all kind of ends up canceling itself out. It's like Dota. War rages across the galaxy. Interstellar travel is only possible due to sacrificing 1,000 souls a day to a rotting carcass of a man who you believe to be your god. Demonic gods and just demons tear open the fabric of reality on a whim. Other Xenos or even other humans end up killing each other in untold billions across the galaxy. It is a time of unending war, slaughter, and a bloodbath amongst everybody. Planets are deemed unrecoverable and are completely destroyed on a whim. Everything sucks.
I think it was in the Imperium of Man video, or if it was in Luton 09 video. From what I've been hearing and from what I know, I mean, obviously, I don't know if it's 100% accurate, was that this would only happen, not on a whim, but only if it's unrecoverable. I'm no expert. I'm kind of just learning this as I go along. And on a further note, I understand that it's all grim and dark. Is there a planet or is there a group of people that are just like peaceful, like they're staying away from everything, and that they're just kind of doing their own thing? Or is it just messed up everywhere? Or if there was like a peaceful civilization or race or group or faction, that they maybe eventually ended up getting conquered by another race or faction, etc., etc. I'd just be very curious if there's like a little slice of heaven somewhere in this universe. But I wouldn't hold my breath on that, though.
But that's like the charm of it. See, everything in Warhammer is evil. But being evil is kind of fun. Like, humanity, in its own right, is a xenophobic, prejudice, and religious zealot group.
Again, I don't want to sound like I mean, obviously, this is all my opinions and thoughts. But as far as everyone being evil, sure, I can see how some races are. But I feel like it's more along the lines of survival. That at the very minimum, every race is trying to survive. And that would most likely create xenophobia. We start to get scared. And I believe I said it in another video. Are you going to attack first, or are you going to wait until you're attacked? And more likely than not, you would want to attack first, because you may or may not get a second chance.
That kill each other just as much as they kill all of their enemies. And they're like mid to high tier evil on the evil scale of Warhammer. Nobody is good. No matter who you are, everyone is some flavor, some color of evil. Whoever you pick, you are going to be the bad guy. But that's the fun of it. Because being the bad guy is badass. Villains are cool. They look cool, they got cool outfits, they got cool weapons, they got cool armies. Villains are cool, man. And when everyone is a villain, everyone is pretty cool. That's what makes this so charming, is that everyone can be the bad guy. So let's start off talking about the main bad guy.
I guess it just depends really on how you look at it.
Quote unquote, the Imperium of Man.
His hair, whack. His gear, whack.
The Imperium of Man is the main empire of the human race. All of humanity is under this one flag called the Imperium. And about 10,000 years ago, there was a man. He was the Emperor of mankind, a 10-foot tall psychic demigod who led humanity across the stars to colonize tons and tons of worlds, create superhuman soldiers, and really bring humanity into a new age. This man, the Emperor of Mankind, was a psyker. And a psyker is like a magician of sorts. In the world of 40k, there is the warp, the immaterium, kind of like hell, but sort of like a purgatory dimension of hell. And a psyker is someone who can take that power and manifest it through their mind to use it to do stuff, like witchcraft stuff, magician stuff, spells, and lots of other things, but we don't want to get too into that. The Emperor, big boy psyker. Top tier, A+, maybe even S. Now the Emperor created a bunch of sons. Yes, created a bunch of sons known as the Primarchs. He created 18 Primarchs to have them lead all of the different legions of humanity to the different stars and plans to help colonize and bring it out. These Primarchs are basically like little versions of the Emperor. Not all of them are psychers, but a lot of them are very, very powerful, and they lead his special Space Marine legions. Then this big clusterfuck happened called the Horus Heresy, where the Emperor's favorite son, the Primarch, Horus, ended up joining Chaos and leading 9 of the 18, half of his Primarchs directly to Earth to fight down the Emperor himself. Now, if you want to know what Chaos is, remember what I mentioned earlier, the warp, that immaterium, the hellish place? In there relies the 4 Chaos gods. Imagine like Satan and 3 other Satans. The warp being kind of evil, those Chaos gods, that's the reason. And so those Chaos gods manipulated Horus, and then Horus helped manipulate all 8 other Primarchs to lead this giant coup directly on the Emperor on Earth. And they fucked up shit. After this huge civil war, Horus died, but not before brutally wounding the Emperor, and right at the end of his life, they put the Emperor on this large golden throne on Earth, in which he is now alive, just barely, but slowly rotting away, powering something called the Astronomicon, so long as he stays alive, and is fed 1,000 people a day. The Astronomicon is like the North Star. If you want to do interstellar travel in 40k, you need to pass through that demonic warp I mentioned earlier. But how do you know where you're going? Well, the Emperor is there putting a nice little navigator right there. He helps navigate you to know where you're going. If you want to go from Earth to some crazy solar system across the way, you need to go through that warp, and then you need to know where you're going, go through there, and pop your way out. It's like doing nether travel in Minecraft, so you can shorten the distance between going to areas. So long as the Emperor is alive and being fed 1,000 people a day to stay alive, you can do that. The moment he dies, interstellar travel's gone. For all.
So he's still running away then, right? So, I mean, I understand he's still alive, but how conscious is he of what's going on?
All of humanity. you're so boned. Now, since the Horus Heresy 10,000 years ago, the Imperium has fallen from grace substantially. All technology has started to dwindle and die. There is now giant fundamental religious extremists that now believe the Emperor of Mankind was a deity, a true living god, which is probably the last thing the Emperor would have wanted to be remembered for. So now you have this thing called the Ecclesiarchy, which is this giant church entirely devoted to spreading the good word of the Emperor. He is now the Holy Emperor God, the God Emperor of mankind, and all of the Imperium has taken up worshiping him to the fullest extent and killing anything that isn't humanity in his name. The Imperium has this futuristic Gothic tone to it and a hefty religious zealotry to them. If you think anything against the Emperor, that's heresy and you deserve to die. That is called being a heretic. Heretics die in 40k. There is no such thing as freedom of religion. There is no such thing as freedom of speech, so long as you are against the Emperor. There is no such thing as any kind of tolerance. Everyone is a religious zealot. Some more than others, but no matter what, you're preaching that good word. So right now, everyone in humanity is trying to expand their empire across the stars. If you are a heretic, someone who doesn't believe in the Emperor, you are deserving of death. If you believe in the Chaos Gods, you are also a heretic and you deserve death. If you are an alien race of any kind, you are a filthy Xenos and you deserve death as well. So long as the murder continues and humanity expands, the Imperium of Man is very, very happy. However, the largest fighting force of this Imperium is my personal favorite faction, and the first faction we will discuss, the Astra Militarum, or also known as the Imperial Guard.
Pretty shit now, man. You finished? That's it, man. Game over, man.
The Imperial Guard is the main fighting force of the Imperium, and in a world of horrifying creatures, galactic monstrosities, the literal demons themselves breaking through the fabric of time to kill you, the Imperial Guard are untold billions of regular men and women wearing modern day like flak armor with a laser rifle. The humble las gun, the main weapon of the Imperial Guard. It fires superheated plasma lasers at an extremely fast fire rate. It is reliable, never jams. It can blow off limbs, giant holes in concrete. It is overall an extremely devastating weapon in modern day. It is one of the weakest in the 40k universe. Yeah, a laser rifle that never jams, it could blow off limbs, one of the weakest weapons. That's the world we're in right now. But who cares? Because the Imperial Guard has, in each battle, 500,000 of these men and women.
I have heard too that it's considered like some kind of a laser pointer or a flashlight, and that honestly, the only reason why I think that this is the case is because the fact that there's so many, and this would be something that would probably be mass-produced. And obviously, when something is insanely mass-produced and they just need to get however many weapons, like by this time, the quality is not going to be so good.
30,000 large armored tanks, 10,000 artillery batteries. The Imperial Guard wins through sheer numbers and firepower. They kind of have this World War I, World War II style aesthetic with legions of guardsmen as well as high company commanders and generals on the field along with them, and multiple kinds of troops. A normal Imperial Guard battle starts off with artillery, long lines of artillery, cracking the crust of the planet underneath the enemy's feet. And as this barrage continues, hundreds of thousands of guardsmen, a sea of guardsmen surges forward, firing and charging at everything possible while the planet rumbles as tanks roll up behind them. Gunships block out the sun and tanks block out the dirt with the steps and hoofprints of millions of guardsmen. It is through numbers and sheer sundering firepower. They are the first.
That could also be very dangerous though. I mean, obviously the enemy sees that, which I don't think it would apply in this universe just because, like say for example the orcs, I don't think they would care. I think they would actually welcome it. But if you were to take this and actually do it, I didn't hear them say whether or not they would actually start the artillery. But as those groups start moving, and I would assume depending on the distance they're probably walking, or maybe they're jogging, or they might just be full-on sprint. If one of those people fall, it might cause 1 or 2 more to fall, and you can see how that little domino effect could eventually cause more people to fall. And if there's tanks coming in behind them, and they got everyone else behind them coming, a lot of people are going to most likely die just from getting trampled on. I don't know, it's very risky, in my opinion, if you were to send like just a giant wave at the enemy in that way. Then again, it might just be me trying to compare it to today's world as well.
And the last line of defense for the Imperium and make up a huge bulk of the battles. The Imperial Guard is also made up of tons of different kinds of regiments. The Cadian jungle fighters live in a death world that's more hospitable than almost any firefight they'll ever get into. So they just have this steroid-looking, giant knife, Rambo Predator-looking sons of bitches, where nothing is anywhere near as scary as a simple knight on their home planet. You have the Valhallan Winter Soldiers who haven't felt their toes in 300 years, the Mordian Iron Guard who are more interested in making their shoes shine than actually fighting a battle, and then of course the big one, the Cadians from Cadia. The biggest export of guardsmen in the entirety of the Imperium. You will fire your first gun at 5. You will disassemble and reassemble it at 10. You will have pounding artillery drills day in and day out at 15. And you'll fight your first Swarm Lord at 16. And if you mention Cadia, you will burst into an unrelenting amount of tears and sadness like I do daily. To quote, "I have at my command an entire battle group of the Imperial Guard, 50 regiments including specialized drop troops, stealthers, mechanized formations, armored companies, combat engineers, and mobile artillery. Over 500,000 fighting men and 30,000 tanks and artillery pieces are mine to command. Emperor, show mercy to the fool that stands against me, for I shall not." The Imperial Guard are my personal favorite faction in 40k. They're the army I collect the most, the ones I enjoy playing the most, and the one I enjoy in the lore sense a lot. There's something about just a regular man with a laser rifle being told to charge the horrors of this universe and willingly doing so for his god emperor. It's just poetic. They actually represent the main Imperial Guard tactics pretty well. Large amounts of artillery that doesn't require a line of sight, lots of tanks, tons of infantry, drop troops, and gunships. Overall, they're pretty similar to how they sound, though a little bit expensive to collect, unfortunately. And they don't hit a lot. They have a bit of a bad aim, but you don't really care because you're just drowning them in shots. However, if you want more accurate fire and specialization, we can move on to talk about Space Marines. The Angels of Death are up next. Space Marines are genetically engineered super soldiers and superhumans. They're given extra organs, their skin tissue is toughened, their bones are stronger, they're taller than the average person. They're pretty massive people, and these are the specialized super soldiers that carry out a lot of the more specific tasks for the Imperium. And there's tons of legions of them. In fact, there's one per Primarch. Each Primarch, the Emperor's son, as I mentioned before, oversees their legion of Space Marines. The genetic upgrade they get is based on the genes of said Primarch. It's something called a gene seed. That's what brings them up to this like superhuman level. As stated, each Primarch has their own legion. Robot Girly Man has the Ultramarines, Jagatai Khan has the White Scars, Rogel Dorn has the Imperial Fists, Corvus Corax has the Raven Guard, and there's a whole bunch of other side sections that are also extremely interesting and have a little bit more of a twist on the average Space Marines, which we will discuss in a bit. Humorously enough, I don't have a whole lot to say about Space Marines. They're superhumanly fast. In fact, it's been said that nothing that large should move that quick. These men in power armor moving at blazing fast speeds, their reflexes are faster, their skin is tougher. They are overall just extremely powerful soldiers. In fact, where they differ comes down to which Space Marine Legion we're talking about. For instance, the Ultramarines done by Robot Gilliman are the main blue boys, strong in almost every way, the jack of all trades kind of group that are a little bit too strong, and that's a lore problem, but the White Scars by Jagatai Khan are all about speed freaks, go fast. We're talking attack bikes, we're talking land speeders, you want to go in quick, you want to hit them hard.
It seems like a biker gang.
You want them to be swarming around like buzzflies, buzz saws. with the speed of buzzsaws. Fuck you, Pale King. Salamanders love fire. Fire in the forge, fire in battle. Flamers, melta-guns, multi-meltas. Just so long as something can be burning, that's big. And they're also actually some of the nicest of the Space Marines. A lot of Space Marines have this kind of like holier-than-thou thing because of their genetic strength. However, the Salamanders tend to put human lives above the lives of themselves, which is actually rather rare. They're also all black, but not like just regular black, like 2 a.m. line at a White Castle black. Like they have a charcoal, dark, ashy exterior and blazing red eyes. Apparently something about living on their home planet of Nocturne, which I don't know if that makes much sense, but who cares? This is like fantasy land anyway. Overall, Salamanders are actually one of my personal favorite legions because they're just really cool. They're fun to play as because of all their flamer weapons, and they have a nice, like, more heartwarming lore as opposed to being super evil like everyone else is. Oh my.
As far as delving into the Space Marine chapters, I feel like obviously delving into the Salamanders more deeply, but also their Primarch. Yeah, so that's probably going to be one of my first chapters that I might start exploring further into.
My God, we're not even a quarter of the way through the Space Marine legions. Imperial Fists believe in the power of the siege and defensive positions. Raven Guards, master of stealth and sabotage while having bird helmets. Iron Hands, masters of machines and vehicles while being really goddamn good at being sold on eBay after one nerf. Space Wolves, Vikings and wolves and tons of wolves and axes, battle axes, fur everywhere. Space Wolves, angry, big teeth. Blood Angels, the genetic defect to make them want to drink blood and go crazy, called the Red Thirst. They have Cupid wings and stuff, which is a little bit strange, and they are all super gay for Sanguinius. Dark Angels are old school knights and inner circle theme and...
Are you a heretic?
Me? No, never. Once in a blue moon, I know.
Death Watch, a fancy-pantsy anti-Xenos group that nobody plays because Death Watch, and they look cool though, but no one plays them. I don't know about Death Watch. They're there though. Black Templars, for the people who, if you haven't prayed at least 3 times a day, you're gonna start praying out that airlock, and I'm sure there's some other chapters.
God. I mean, they did have a cool color scheme, so.
I may have missed as well, like Crimson Fists and stuff, but those are the main ones right here. Here, quote from the Emperor himself. They shall be my finest warriors, these men who give of themselves to me. Like clay I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war I shall forge them. They shall be of iron will and steely sinew. In great armor I shall clad them, and with the mightiest weapons shall they be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease, no sickness shall blight them. They shall have such tactics, strategies, and machines that no foe will best them in battle. They are my bulwark against the terror. They are my defenders of humanity. They are my Space Marines, and they shall know no fear. And on the tabletop, they fuck. Oh, they fuck hard. As of making this video, Space Marines are laughably strong. That might change at some point, but overall, Space Marines just have it's like a Swiss Army knife, a tool for anything you need, except it's like a gold-plated Swiss Army knife. It is extremely strong. If you are actually getting into the tabletop of Warhammer, Space Marines are a great start. Also, whatever gameplay style you have, whether you want to be sit back with long range and heavy weaponry, go fast and run in, or even just full melee, all of these options are totally there for you. Space Marines are super badass, but unfortunately, it's time we start praying to our new god, the 2011 Honda Civic.
So is it any wonder people are afraid of technology?
Technology! The Adeptus Mechanicus. The Adeptus Mechanicus are a technophile cult on Mars. Now, these people are a little bit weird because they don't actually really believe in the Emperor of Mankind. And you might think, oh, whoa, Bricky, that sounds like some heresy. A little bit. They believe in the Emperor, they believe in his power, but they don't pray to him. They pray to something called the Omnisia. And the Omnisia is this kind of machine god that they believe permeates in all machines. And if you think, well, wait a minute, they believe in a different god as well? That sounds like super heresy. Well, yes-ish, but they also make all your guns. and they make all your tanks, and they make everything that you have, so you can't really tell them to fuck off, because you're not gonna win nothing if you don't got stuff to shoot people with. See, their Omnisia at least makes sense from their standpoint. They believe it to be a deity that permeates through all machines. Your Honda Civic, your standard bolt gun, your Dune Strider Walker, your giant mechs, your huge ships. The Omnisia is present through all. And the only reason your stuff works is because the machine's spirit in it says it works. If you want your gun to work, your tank to run, you must pray to it. And I mean full stop. You need to start chanting in high Gothic. You need to burn incense. You need to sit.
That reminded me from the Astarte video, when they're, I think it was in the first one or the second one, it was the fan made one, was that before they're going in to get the rebellion, one of them is waving this little essence over his gun. And also, are these like the only group that can actually make these things, or have they ever thought of replacing them with other groups of people, or just like at least preserving the knowledge on how to make everything and then just transfer that to a different group?
Sit on your knees and pray to that car. You need to rub oil on your robes, and you need to go ahomina, homina, 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 homina. Full stop. If you want your damn thing to work, if you want your gun to fire, you need to do that. They are very bizarre, and they actually have a bit of a point because it's obviously working. And if you look at them, I don't know how that works. So they obviously know something about what they're doing. The most notable member of the Adeptus Mechanicus is Archmagos, Magos, whatever, Belisarius Call. Look at this dude. Look at this dude. Yeah, this is the group we're talking about. These are these weirdos. Here, the Omnisian Creed. The credo, Omnisia. There is no truth in flesh, only betrayal. There is no strength in flesh, only weakness. There is no constancy in flesh, only decay. There is no certainty in flesh, but death. Flesh is weakness, flesh is death. The Omnisia is the god of the machines, and if you wish to be whole, if you wish to be holy, if you wish to give unto him, you must saw down your limbs and remove your organs and replace them with mechanical parts, because that is what he wants, and that is how you will become enlightened. Hard technophiles mixed with religious extremism. Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, for their army side of things, they are with the Scutari. The Scutari operate with very bizarre weaponry and lots of different kinds of vehicles, tanks, and different people in between. They're very weird, but they have extremely wacky and enjoyable, and in fact quite effective, both in the real game and in the lore, weaponry and gear. Overall, as an army on the tabletop, they're very weird and have a whole bunch of different shenanigans, but if you like kind of that quirky, wacky techno thing, I'd give them a pickup. Hell, they're so paranoid. I gotta keep going. They're so paranoid and crazy. These Dune Striders you see right here, one guy was able to make them work. One guy, and he died. And they're so scared they'll never work again that they keep them on and they never turn them off, and they run around in a circle the whole time until they need them, and then they corral it and they go to battle. Yep. The Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, if you want to talk about faith, though, let's talk about the Sisters of Battle.
A simp has fallen for an e-girl in Lego City.
The Sisters of Battle of the Adeptus Sororitas, if that's how I pronounce it correctly, is an all-female group of battle sisters going through the ecclesiarchy section of the Imperium. The ecclesiarchy is, of course, the church. This is, imagine a private army of the church, which is scary. And it is. The Sisters are an extremely zealotous force, and they take this to a full extreme. They believe in three main things: faith, martyrdom, and fire. Through the Bolter, the Flamer, and the Melta, the Sisters of Battle are extremely potent at taking out chaos and heretics. Mainly heretics, because as they are a fighting section of the ecclesiarchy church, That's the big thing they want to kill. Any form of heretic will face the Emperor's justice through those three main weapons, the Bolter, the Flamer, and the Melta, and they will do so with extreme prejudice. Literally. They are the closest things we have to nuns in space, and I'm talking hardcore nuns. They carry holy fire on their backs. They have holy, books and sigils all across their armor. Their main battle tank is a fucking pipe organ missile launcher. They have small babies that they have removed their brain capacity to make them little servant cherubs to fly around and give them ammunition and shit. They drop churches from low orbit as mini drop pods onto battles. They drop churches into battles, and they blare war hymns and holy music from their frigates in low atmosphere and shower holy water across the battlefield. These are the people you are dealing with, and they're...
Does that holy water actually have an effect in this universe, or is it just water?
Fucking awesome. They can literally stave off demons on the tabletop because their faith is that strong. Remember the warp, the demons from the warp? Well, the warp also manifests in your mind. All of your emotions, negative and positive, go through the warp. It's the immaterium, the place of all things. So if you are that mentally fortified, that mentally strong, you can stave off horrifying demons. And all these girls, oh, not a crack. Not a crack in that mental armor. Now, as much as a meme as they are, and as much as their models look a lot like Ongo Gabloglian, yeah, which I can't unsee anymore, I gotta say, I love their design. I think they're extremely cool. They're another army that I'm currently collecting. They just released a whole new line of figures very recently, and they look wonderful. Everything from Celestine, the living, literally undying saint from the Triumph of Saint Catherine, which is literally a funeral procession as a model. Those organ tanks I mentioned earlier. This shit is the most over-the-top badassery in a lot of the Warhammer universe, and goddamn it, is it over the top. But Sisters of Battle are so cool. While I'm a guardsman at heart, oh, this is such a cool faction. By Bolter Shell, Flamer Burst, and Melta Blast, the mutant, the heretic, and the traitor alike are cleansed of their sin of existence. So it has been for 5 millennia, so shall it be until the end of time. And speaking of burning demons,
I can see!
I can fight!
the Grey Knights are the first army I actually collected back in 7th edition. The Grey Knights are a super secretive and much more old school look at power armored knights, except they are all psychers. All of them have that crazy space magic magician shit. For every 100,000 guardsmen, there's one Grey Knight. For every 10,000 Sisters of Battle, there's one Grey Knight. For every 1,000 Space Marines, there's one Grey Knight. Grey Knights are the strongest of the strong, both in mental will and absolute just strength. These are Space Marines that are all high-level psychers, all of them able to specifically do one goal, and that is kill demons. The Emperor believed that the demons of chaos were the #1 threat to the Imperium, and he probably is right. However, this group is entirely based on doing that through a myriad of tactics. Coming from the planet, or I guess the moon, of Titan in the Sol system, the Grey Knights are thrown through extremely rigorous training and are as clear of mind and soul as they possibly can be. Since the demons of the warp are the warp and your mind projects to the warp, people can go insane very fast, especially lower level psychers. These Grey Knights need to be able to harness the warp in the presence of demons and stay perfectly sane. One of their characters, one of my favorite characters, is named Castellan Crow. He has a demon blade, the black blade of Mahamahama, and he has to have it on him because it tempts everyone nearby, constantly beckoning them. Use my power, use my strength, suck my penis. whatever the possibility. And so he has to keep it on him all the time as this thing whispers to him consistently. And he has to stave it off forever, being alone in his chambers or on the battlefield, because anyone who gets too close to it might be tempted a little too hard. He is that pure of heart and mind, and all the characters in the Grey Knights are basically like that.
All right, so these guys are like really the elite of the elite. And curious to see if there's any other Grey Knights, because it seemed like that sword that he was talking about seems like it was only one that he had. Like no one else had it. But I'd be curious to see if there's other Grey Knights that actually have weapons like this that are similar, or maybe a shield, which is weird. I haven't really seen any shields at all that I can remember.
The only issue is that the Grey Knights have a scorched earth policy, more ways than one. If they're fighting demons, demons corrupt and make people crazy. So if I'm a guardsman and I'm fighting demons and the Grey Knights arrive and they kill all the demons, I'm a risk. And so guess who's not making it out of there? On the tabletop, they're very strike fast, strike hard kind of people. They teleport all around the place. They are fast strike groups, small amounts of models because they're so dang strong. You only have so many characters, but with it, you get in there, you're very tough, very tanky, you hit really hard, and you try to bounce around the battlefield quickly, but you don't have numbers, and so every dead Grey Knight hits really damn hard. They're fun, though, if you like that kind of fast-striking kind of army. Oh, and also, Caldor Drago is a thing. We're not even going to get into Caldor Drago. All right, that is, oh my goodness gracious. I am the hammer. I am the mail about his fist. I am the spear in his hand. Though we are lost, I am the shield on his arm. I am the flight of his arrows. I am the hammer. I am the sword. I am the shield. I am a soldier at the battle at the end of time. Grey Knights are pretty hardcore. They are as holy as you can get for a Space Marine. If you like Space Marines and you don't think they're holy enough, you want to be holier, Grey Knights. Now, if you want to be holier and big, let's talk Imperial Knights.
Oh, Lord, he coming!
Do you like gigantic walkers the size of homes or medium-sized buildings? Do you want to kill heretics, but you want to kill like 40 of them per turn? Do you want a gigantic, old-school knight noble house style of walkers with giant chainsaw arms? Then you got Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights, there's not a whole lot to talk about them because they're just gigantic walkers, but they have this old-school, like, house feel to them. Like, literally, like, they're houses. Each Imperial Knight comes from a house, and each of them act in their own special way. These behemoth of walkers also destroy almost everything in their path, killing full swaths of squads in a couple shots, stepping on legions of troops. Like, these things do not mess around, and they look so cool. Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights, actually, for that matter, don't have a whole lot to discuss. They're just super big, heavy walkers, and they look different depending on your house or Chaos God you currently believe in. And overall, these things are just really cool if you want to murder everything in your path. They're the big, scary, big unit of Warhammer, and if you want to collect them...
Real quick, and this might sound like a dumb question. So, are they just robots, or is there like a pilot that's in it? Or how is it being controlled?
Go to town. They make for a great painting project, too. Getting more back down to earth, let's talk something about a little bit different, a little more gold. If guardsmen are regular soldiers, Space Marines are super soldiers, Grey Knights are super soldiers, the Adeptus Custodians are super soldiers cubed. The Adeptus Custodians are the third major army I own.
Okay, it seems like they're hyping up every single Space Marine the more they go along. Because now, okay, so from what he just said, is that these guys are supposed to be higher than the Grey Knights.
No, 3 armies. I know, I got carried away, okay, but that's all. I only have 3, okay? They are our final brand of Space Marines, but these ones are super special, okay? If a Guardsman is 6 foot, a Space Marine is 7 feet, a Custodian is 8 feet. These are the giant defenders of Holy Terra, which is also Earth. Earth is Terra, Terra, themselves. These are the people that literally guard the Emperor's throne room, hence Custodians. These boys protect the Emperor's throne room at all times and are literally like handcrafted people. They're not humans brought up by a gene seer or something. These are all handcrafted super soldiers. I think from a tube. These behemoth of men are like 8 feet, 8.5 feet tall, and functionally immortal. They stand still, spear in hand, for hundreds of years without the need to sleep and barely even the need to eat, watching over the throne room and every other area of Holy Terra for their entire purpose in life.
I understand what the purpose is supposed to be, and the fact that they're handcrafted in that they don't really need food and they could like stand up, stay straight, like he said, for hundreds of years. I feel like these would be great to have in the battlefield, right? But then again, I don't know. That's just me kind of prodding at the idea.
And oh my lord, are they terrifying. These Custodians put Space Marines to shame. If you liked your super soldiers, these are your super mega soldiers. One of these men can take on probably 3 Space Marines and most likely win. There are many different groups of Custodians as well, like the Solar Watch, or there's also one of my personal favorite, the Aquilan Shield. The Aquilan Shield go out to seemingly unimportant individuals and protect them because they believe that they are going to be doing something very important in their lives. For instance, let's say a regular guardsman gets the protection of this giant 8.5 foot tall golden god because that guardsman will end up becoming a general one day or something of that nature. The Custodians work in mysterious ways and are almost always outnumbered but never outmatched. These people are pretty horrifying, both on the tabletop as well as in the lore. There are very few of them, however, and there's actually an extremely small amount of them, but that's kind of the point. There's only so many of these people that can have war gear this strong, weapons this powerful, and training this good. And the Custodians have all 3 of it. For 100 years, I stood my watch amidst the somber shadows of the Sanctum Imperialis. I was still as a statue, but always ready, always attuned to dangers unseen. Days, months, years passed by in a frenzied blur beyond those walls, yet within little moved and nothing changed. For 100 years I did not but wait, yet had any threat appeared I would have struck it down in a heartbeat. For 100 years I stood my watch, and as it ends I can tell you this: patience is a weapon. The Custodians are the top dogs of the Imperium, and they hurt just that same way. Though I do want to discuss a little bit about the Sisters of Silence before we get out of here, because the Sisters of Silence I also have a few of, and they're really fun, but they don't get enough attention. These kind of bald plume ladies are a whole group of pariahs, or also known as blanks. We'll be referring to them as blanks from now on. So as every mind is somewhat connected to the warp, these blanks are a genetic mutation that has it suppressed heavily. Because of that mind suppression, normal people feel this weird, like, uncomfortable nature when around them. When a Sister of Silence walks past them, you feel ill. You feel just uncomfortable and strange. So most of them don't actually live past childhood, because once they are birthed, they're, well, you know, killed or something at a very young age because they just emit a horrifying aura. These ladies, however, are guardians of the throne as well for more psychic threats. See, none of the Custodians are psychers, so they have a difficult time dealing with major demons and other kinds of psychic phenomena. These sisters are extremely specialized, all of them taking a vow of silence as they don't speak, hence the term Sisters of Silence, but they communicate through hand gestures and things of that nature. But if there's a demon issue, if there's any kind of warp-based problem, the sisters are extremely adept at dealing with them, thanks to their blank gene. They normally work a lot of the time with the Custodians because they have to deal with both kinds of threats, but they're not represented that way on the tabletop. In fact, they only have like one real model for them, which is very unfortunate. I hope they'll get some like news soon, because I think they should really be working together as it is that way in the lore, but hopefully we'll get there soon. But if we're talking about blanks, let's talk assassins.
My precious power ring, gone forever.
It's been a long video. We're about to round it out. We got this and one more human thing, and then we're done. The assassins, though, the Officio Assassinorum, oh boy, these people are deadly. Yeah, they're called assassins. They should be, but oh man, these people will mess you up So these are from the Officio Assassinorum, a very special organization, and they are handpicked by the Grand Master of the Officio Assassinorum from the, what was it called? Schola Progenium. It's basically an orphan school. Your parents got murdered by demons or something, you get sent to this and you get trained to be whatever. Tempestus Drop Troop, an Inquisitor maybe even. Maybe you get a blank gene and you get thrown into the Sisters of Silence, or sometimes you just disappear. When you are taken, however, you go to one of 4 temples, because the Assassinorum works in the temple style of things. These temples are the Vindicare, Calexus, Caledus, and Eversor temples. Let's start with the Vindicare. I'm far away. I've been sitting here for 3 weeks. Poof! The Vindicare Temple is the main sniper-based temple. Gigantic sniper rifles for all these assassins. Their whole point is to be able to be in a spot and sit there, eye and scope, for weeks, waiting for their perfect target, taking people out from literal miles away after extremely long time periods. The Vindicare Temple is about precise, perfect aim. There have been reports of Vindicares being able to single out particular body parts from over 2-3 miles away.
All right, so as far as when he was talking about that they'll literally sit with their eye in the scope, just looking, unless it's for observation, just so you can kind of keep an eye on a certain area for whatever reason, I can see why they would do that. If he's aiming on a target, obviously that target's not standing still. I mean, he could be moving side to side, but if you already know where he's at, you know what, it might just be me reading too much into it, trying to apply knowledge into this, but obviously all these people, everyone in the Warhammer 40k universe is crazy.
Temples in the head, the jugular, for instance, and been sitting there after weeks, and when they're ready, take that shot, time is done, packs them up. The Caledus Temple, however, is a lot more about shape-shifting and deviant art. It's mostly a female-based one, or at least it seems to be, and this allows a lot of body augmentation for certain individuals to be able to kind of transmorph themselves and infiltrate areas that are problems. These assassins will end up taking missions that take them years, 2-3 years, to infiltrate a heretical group and slowly work their way up, just to get enough time to put a bullet into the main target's head and then escape unharmed, or hum the main target and sabotage it from within. These are all completely about deception, mind tricks, polymorphing, and everything in between, and lots of drawings. The Eversor Temple, just kind of disturbing one. The Eversor Temple is about when you don't want anything to come back alive, friend or foe. You want it all dead. An Eversor is psychogenically conditioned with just psychotherapy and psychological torture to only feel violence, hatred, and anger. It does the Clockwork Orange style of thing of just making you forced to watch never-ending pain and misery and psycho conditioning, I guess is the term. And then they pump you full of tons of psychedelic drugs and they cryo-freeze you. And then they drop you in an area where they just want to make sure everything is dead. And then you defrost, full of just all this insane, mind-boggling psychotherapy and psychedelic drugs, and you just go to town. Yeah, if you don't care if anyone comes back alive. You're like, all right, lost cause, send them in. Finally, there's the most bizarre temple, the Calexus Temple. The Calexus assassins are feared even among the other temples. So that blank gene, the people will go to the Calexus Temple with this as well. And this is where they can harness that to be massively anti-psyker or even just anti-regular people. They're seen with extreme fear and distrust among many, many people. They're described by the Eldar, by quote, as being pure evil. Imagine that uncomfortable feeling from that blank gene I mentioned, And then imagine them being taught and given equipment to amplify it by 100. If normally regular people feel uncomfortable, now they are basically akin to being a siren wailing directly in your ear. And if you're a psyker, oh no, the sheer presence of a Calexus assassin is enough for you to tear your skin off. You will rather gouge your eyes out and rip your nails off than even being near this person. The Calexus assassin is when you want psychers to literally lose their minds, and they will go on their knees and ask you to gun them down because it is a suitable choice over being anywhere near you.
I wonder if they've ever had an encounter with the Grey Knights, because considering these guys are supposed to be like with that blank gene times whatever amount he said, but obviously a lot more than those Sisters of Silence. I'm really hoping I'm remembering that right. But and then you got the Grey Knights, who are supposed to be complete opposite, psychers to a high level. So I wonder if one of them, if they would cancel out, if one of them would be stronger than the other, or just kind of see what would happen, or if it did happen.
The motto of that temple is, "That which is unknown and unseen commands the greatest fear." Now, for the tabletop, assassins aren't that special. You can call them in no matter what Imperium faction you are, and they do a lot of work for themselves, but at the same time, they're very specialized and require a lot of finesse. And they work the way you generally want them to, though. You want to cause some distortion and weird stuff, you take a Caledus. You want to just murder swaths of infantry and then blow up Eversor. You want to kill that one guy, Vindicare, and if you have a lot of psychers, Calexus. It's a nice little, like, jack of all trades if you have a specific thing you want to kill. And you get to choose which is really fun. But now, let's talk about the last human faction. We can round this video out before we do part 2, the Inquisition. We have a lot to talk about with them.
On the subject of heresy!
Oh boy. Where do I even begin with the Inquisition? Take every secret police you can think of. The KGB, the Gestapo, the CIA, FBI, any of these kinds of people. And then mark it up by about 10 and give them the most power in the entire Imperium. No, you know what? How about this? This right here, it's not just a quote. This is the imperial motto, the motto of the Inquisition. I apologize for my bad pronunciation. Innocentia nihil probat. Innocence proves nothing.
I don't know why, that just kind of messed with my head on that one.
Most powerful organization in the Imperium, the secret police, their number one motto is innocence proves nothing. The Inquisition goes around like the secret police or like detectives to find issues in the Imperium. And they have different ordos depending on which one we're talking about. The Ordo Hereticus, the Ordo Xenos, the Ordo Malleus, for instance, and a whole bunch of other ones. Hereticus is obvious, they deal with heretics. Xenos tries to find alien threats, and Malleus is demons. They all have different specializations in what they're trying to go for as this Inquisitor. And that's what they're called, Inquisitors. Each of them, as an Inquisitor, has their own free reign to do as they wish. They may have a ship and a crew, and they go out to find problems and interrogate people a lot. They are above the law in every department over Space Marines. Now, the Space Marines might argue against them and stuff, and there might be a lot of blowback, but technically they are above them as Inquisitors.
I would like to see an instance where a Space Marine just kind of said F you to one of them, and then a whole fight broke out. But so it seems like they're able to do kind of pretty much anything that they want. And also, just to kind of find one thing to at least parallel this to my time in the Marines, if you ever had to use your rank to try to get something across, or just to kind of like get your way, and obviously they would be speaking to like a Lance Corporal or Corporal, PFC. The general consensus was, at least in my experience, is that you would lose a lot of respect for that person. Because now it just kind of seems like, well, hey, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And if there's ever any blowback, I'll just say, hey, I'm a staff sergeant, right? I'm a higher rank than you. But that doesn't always happen with everyone, because sometimes those of a higher rank aren't necessarily, and it does come down to fitness as well. And they're under the mentality that no one below them is ever going to do anything physically to them. Which, a little story, when I was in Buring in the Middle East, and it's a camp run by the army, was that there was a little sergeant, about 5'6", 5'8". He was talking shit to this Lance Corporal. And this Lance Corporal, from what I heard, was 6'1", 6 feet. So obviously taller, but this dude was jacked, right? And apparently they had gotten into an argument. And then there was a third person in there, and he was the one that told me about this. And he said he saw the sergeant say something. I don't remember what he said, but as soon as he did, this Lance Corporal grabs him by the collar, yokes him up against the wall, and says, "Don't ever effing put your hands on me." And then apparently the sergeant started freaking out, screaming, looking at the other guy saying like, "Help, help," like saying it in a very dramatic way. And I was thinking like, especially if you're on a one-on-one situation with someone where that does happen, and you know that you cannot take them if it does get physical, then don't do it. If you're being an ass and you're pulling rank, just do it just to get your way. You're not seen in a likable light.
They are looking to investigate and figure out coups and cults and demonic incursions and possible Xenos issues like gene stealers or a new threat coming into an area. They're about learning that stuff and actually doing detective work. And memes aside, they're pretty good at it. The Inquisition having all of this power does make them a little bit power hungry and frantic sometimes. And yes, it is still a bad thing, but most of them are pretty good at their job. And they spend a lot of time being very diligent to make sure that all of these leads they follow are proper and correct. They're basically space detectives with just enormous power and sometimes a bit of a power complex. And we haven't even talked about Exterminatus yet. Exterminatus is deeming a planet unfit to be saved. I deem that this planet is demon infested and taking it back will cost too many resources and is not worth it. I have now committed Exterminatus on this planet. I will now sign the death warrant of an entire Imperium planet as it is unfit to take and better to be destroyed than allow the enemy to hold it. This can mean saturation bombardment. This can mean cracking the planet's core and breaking it apart. Doesn't matter. Render this planet inhospitable to all life. Yes, the innocents proves nothing people are the only people who can choose this planet must die in its entirety. Yeah, you're playing the villain. Now, it is memed a lot, but most Inquisitors are very rare to do Exterminatus. Exterminatus is a very crazy thing. There's only so many worlds that you don't want to destroy all of them. Now, naturally, with the memes aside, there are some people who are a little bit rough on this one. But most Inquisitors generally don't like to do Exterminatus a ton, but it is an option they have. And it's a crazy option when you think about it. Secret Police Inquisition are unfortunately not represented on the tabletop very much. You generally kind of put one in your army if you feel like it. You have a couple special options there and some side content, but they're not really fleshed out very well, and personally they need a lot more stuff put in there, and they really need a lot more effort put into them, and they're not quite where I want them to be. Overall, the Inquisition makes for a lot of the best storytelling as well, because it's a little bit hard to talk about a big story of a whole bunch of Space Marines killing something. Right? It's just a big battle story. It's not as interesting. Having that intrigue and that moral dilemma that an Inquisitor has makes for a lot better media. And honestly, the more people do it, I think it's better, because then it adds a little more humanity to the Warhammer horrible, horrible grimdarkness. And wow, we just finished the humans. All right,
let's go ahead and talk about that for a minute. So one of the things that really did intrigue me so far was that as far as the different types of chapters, especially when we talked about the Salamanders for the Space Marines, was that this is probably the group, if I somehow did make it through their training, I would want to be a part of. I can see why a lot of people have been telling me and hyping up the Grey Knights. Not only do they have a really cool design, but obviously being top level psychers. I've also been having a question just kind of keep coming to my head. How is the board game actually played? I mean, obviously I'm going to be looking at this a little bit later when I have some time, but I'm just curious to see how is it played. Is it like, does it involve dice? How exactly do you move your pieces? How does it work? I mean, he said that it could work in turns, but I'm still completely oblivious as to how it is, because I've only ever seen like the pieces, but I've never really seen. I should probably watch a battle between two people on here, just to kind of give me an idea. And the one thing that was really crazy was that I don't something Mechanicus something, the ones who also worship another god. You would assume that with the insane amount of heresy that would imply, because obviously it's not the Emperor, was that they're the ones building everything. So obviously they're not going to kill him. Otherwise, they wouldn't know how to create everything. They do have weapons. I don't know if it would extend to buildings and most likely armor. And just seeing that they hold an insane amount of power, but in a different format than just physical strength. I mean, I would assume that they're pretty physically strong, but I would say it's more psychological, and that the Imperium doesn't want to get rid of them because they're insanely, I guess, to put it in a way, a useful asset to have. And damn, I just can't get over the way how cool the Grey Knights look. You know what? I would say between the Grey Knights and the Salamanders, probably in my top 2 right now. And as far as with the Inquisitors, I'm curious to get to know more about them, because the fact that they hold an enormous amount of power, I want to see. I mean, most likely there is instances where they probably abuse that power. There's some that probably, for example, have done things that they might regret, as far as issuing exterminatus. And also reiterating, I would want to see a little bit of conflict between them and certain space marines to see kind of how that turned out. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, it really does help me a lot. Hit that dislike button if you didn't like it. It helps me improve the channel. If you're curious to see what's coming up next, check the description down below. You're going to see a list of about 5. Top to bottom is going to be how I view them. But until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.